Welcome back to the channel, Fat Boys. Today we're going to be talking about my personal GoPro settings and how you can also improve your GoPro settings. Let's get into it. As a preface for all this, I have spent all of my own money on all of this equipment. These are my own opinions on what works best, and these are the things that work best for me. If you are interested in purchasing any of these items, I am going to link them down in the description down below, so you can go ahead and purchase them right there. And so to have full transparency, the links down below are going to be affiliate links through Amazon, so it is going to be pennies on the dollar. So if you want to help out, please go ahead and use those links down below, but you don't have to. Just really appreciate it. So with starting out on this episode, I really want to talk about like all the equipment I'm using during my motovlogs and everything that I'm able to record, and how I'm setting them up so you can get the best possible recordings during your motovlogs and for your channel as well. Starting off, on my helmet, the main camera that I am currently using is the GoPro Hero 10 with the media mod. Then you will also be able to see on my handlebars, my second camera was actually the camera that used to be on my helmet, which was the GoPro Hero 8 Black. And now I also recently got the media mod. This just makes everything a little bit better, so I'm able to pick up my voice a little bit better during the beginning. So starting it off, we can go ahead and power on the GoPro. You already see, I already have it in my standard. This is how I have my GoPro set up, and you have to figure out what works best for you. For me, these are the settings I have done. We can go ahead and dive on in. The first thing that is going to be different for you, unless you have the media mod, is you will notice this green bar jumping up and down. That is actually the reading for the microphone on here. I like it. I like having that. It allows me to use it, especially for now when I start to go vlogging and the more wild. I used to use my phone, and now I won't have to because I will have this, and I have a microphone that can also plug right into this GoPro now, and I will be able to see my audio levels right from the GoPro. Love that. So diving into it, for my everyday motovlogging, we will start with these settings. I have this as my standard because that is what I'm going to be using most of the time. I can go ahead and hit the pencil icon, and it will allow me to edit and jump on in there. I have my frames per second set to 4K at 24 frames per second. I like the 24 frames per second. I think it just makes it look a little bit more dramatic in a way. Some people like the 60 frames a second because it looks a little bit more real. I like the 24 coming from my video editor side. I love how it looks. I've just grown up with it, and I love the way it looks. So that's all preference. There's 24, 30, and 60. Generally, those are the frame rates you're going to be using most of the time as a motovlogger. I like to use the super view, so that way you can see as wide as possible and you see as much as there is. And finally, I also do have the hyper smooth boost. It does have a very slight crop on the super view, but it's hardly noticeable. Schedule captured is off. Duration I set to no limit. Hindsight is off. Hindsight, I can talk about that just a little bit later, why you may want that. I have my bit rate set to standard. I used to have it set to high, but I really haven't found that much of a difference in between the high and standard bit rate, except in storage space. So I like to talk a lot, so I keep it on standard so I'm able to get as much time out of my memory cards. I have my shutter set to auto, EV comp set to 0, white balance set to auto, ISO 100, ISO max 1600. And here's the key part. You want to set your sharpness to low. When you do this, it gives it a much softer but much more natural looking and really increases the quality. If you have it set to medium or high, it honestly gives it much more of a cell phone or action camera look, which honestly, in my opinion, doesn't look good. So I really recommend setting it down to low. I also have my color set to neutral. You can have flat if you want to do much more heavy editing in the post-production. And you also have vibrant, which I think is a little bit too much, so that's why I keep it in the natural. I keep the raw audio off just because I've never found that much more of a difference in the flexibility from the audio when you have those extra files. The only time I have seen benefits from having raw audio on is when it's going to be on high. And when you do that, it actually separates all of the audio lines out. And this is really good for motovlogging when you are running multiple lines into your GoPro. So that way, if you are recording you and another buddy, you're able to separate those audios. I don't really right now have anyone that I'm sharing my Senna with, so I don't need to separate those audios. So I keep it on off, and that also cuts down quite a bit on your data sizes when you're recording. I also set my wind to off because then it's not going to be fighting and overcompensating for the wind noise. Media mod I have set to front because when I will be doing my vlogging, it will go right into there. But when I plug my microphone right into the bottom port right down here, it will automatically turn that off and you go right into the microphone. For all of the shortcuts down here, you can set these to however you want. It doesn't really matter to me because I never really use them because I set the camera settings how I want them. So I set the setting, hit the setting I want, and it's already there, and I hit record. So if you are the person that likes to maybe change things up really quick, I recommend changing these shortcuts around to what you personally find to be the most beneficial. The next video setting I have is going to be my activity setting, which is going to be pretty much exactly the same, except with just a few tiny changes. I have it to 4K 60 because when I have it on action, I may want to have that extra crispy little bit of slow-mo to where I know I'm going to be doing something, but I don't know when that something is going to happen. So then I'll be able to easily slow it down to my normal 24 frames a second. Next I have is cinematic mode, because this is going to be just a little bit different. This is when I am going to be wanting to get B-roll of up close materials of certain bikes when I'm doing test rides and demos. So from here, I have my hyper smooth set to boost, very standard, but then I also have the 5.3K set to 30 because that's as low as it actually lets you go when you are in the 5.3. So I can just convert that to 24 frames. I'll lose a couple frames here and there. It'll kind of maybe be a little bit jittery, but most people won't be able to pick it up. But I also have the Linear Plus HL, which is the horizon lock, which I love about this GoPro Hero 10. It allows you to horizon lock so all of your horizons are perfectly flat up to 45 degrees of tilt. Since it is going to be cinematic, I do want the bitrate high. And after that, it does not matter as long as the sharpness is low. Then I also have ultra slow-mo. I have that set to 240 frames a second, as wide as it can go, which is at wide for when I know I'm just going to be doing nothing but constantly getting great action. And I have that set to 2.7K because that's the highest resolution it can possibly go. So now for the feature that I was talking about a little bit just beforehand, the hindsight. Why you may want this. Hindsight is you set the camera to where it is constantly on and it has a buffer of a certain amount of seconds to where if you feel like you don't want to constantly be recording and always have to be going back through that footage, you could have hindsight on and it will build that buffer, have recording, and it will up to a certain amount of seconds. And then once you hit the record button, it will capture those previous seconds that you told it to capture and continue recording from then on out once you hit the record button. So if I go to hindsight, it says off. So if I set this to 15 seconds, you could see it's already going up. It's up at 5 seconds. It's building up. It's already building up right now. And once it reaches that 15 seconds, it will go ahead and say it's ready. It's ready with that blue little dot right there. So I'm just riding along. Nothing's really happening. Oh crap, an accident. I hit the record button. Bam. It now has 16 seconds on it already because it went back and had whatever 15 seconds was before I hit that record button. So this can be really good, more not for the motovlogger type of situation, but more for the person that is just waiting for something to happen. And so now, same thing on the GoPro Hero 8. My settings are actually going to be very similar, if not the same on this GoPro. 4K, 24 frames a second. I have it in super view. Hyper smooth is on. You either have on or off. And I have my bitrate set to standard. Everything else is the same and sharpness is set to low. Super simple, same thing as everything I've talked about in the previous camera. I currently have 128 gigabyte cards inside of this, and I'm able to get about 4 hours on the Hero 8, and then I believe I'm about able to receive about 3 hours on the Hero 10. The bit rates are just a little bit different, so it takes more space to record off of the Hero 10. And so now, after the GoPros, I want to talk about my helmet. I used to run a mounting hardware, like a regular GoPro mount with a whole bunch of arms that ran right across. I am now currently running with the Chin Mount's Rorock 3 mount, which is honestly even better than the Rorock one, and I love it. It has a lot more of a contact point with the helmet, allowing it to really grip. My problem with the Rorock one was that after adding the GoPro on there and my microphone and everything attached to it, it actually ended up falling forward and detaching itself from the helmet, so it never really stuck very well. I then also do have right here a microphone, which I do have a lavalier microphone running through the helmet, and it is right underneath my cheek pad, right next to my mouth. I let the cheek pad try to filter out as much wind as possible. I do also have a dead cat on that microphone. It's going to be a little bit hard to show you right now, but it does also work really well, as you guys have probably noticed and even heard. I think it's the best one I have been able to find, and this system is working for me with my helmet setup. It has not worked with other helmet setups that I've had, but now I have found the appropriate GoPro adapters, and microphones that work for me. And that's what's going to be really important. What works for me may not work for you. I will link everything down below, including this microphone. It was not that expensive at all. I believe about 20 bucks. I will link it down below. Highly recommend it. It has worked so much better for me. I have tried, I believe, about 15 different lavalier microphones. Everything from a Sennheiser, which I found wasn't that good actually for me, to all the way to Purple Panda. So this is what has worked best for me, especially for the price. So if you have any other questions about anything that I've talked about, if you feel like I missed anything that you really have questions about, please write them down below. I'd be happy to answer them. I have used so many different setups. I've tried so many different things. For me, this is the best setup that I've come up with that works best for me. Hopefully you liked this video. If it was informative, please give it a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. If you aren't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.